Alright y'all, we have another video series. This is my nephew's Subaru that we did the head gaskets on. As you can see, it sustained a little bit of damage. I'd actually stop it with the e-brake because he was driving it without any brake fluid. Something happened where it's just bone dry. There's no brakes at all. I honestly don't know how he dropped it off here, but take a look at this. Let me know if you see an issue with this rear tire. Definitely a little bit harder to tell, but you might be able to. Nah, this is a bad angle on the phone. But this tire, this rear tire, instead of it being like this, like with this one here, it's like this. Because obviously there's some damage that's been sustained here. And what we're afraid of is this shock mount has bent in. So we're gonna get this thing off the ground, take a look. It's been a while since I've seen this thing. In fact, since the day it drove off, this radiator hose aftermarket is hard as a rock. It was leaking as well. I tightened it up, but this hose I'm very disappointed with, but we're more concerned about the future drivability. So let's take a look here. Definitely hard to get the right angle. Yeah, you can kind of tell. It's just so anyway, it blew out the tire and so the spare is on it right now. This door doesn't open, which is a big concern. The shock mount's right here. So what we think is happening is the unibody has faded away. So we're gonna try to figure out if this thing is going to be savable. Look at that. Oof. Oof. That's the angle. Yikes. Oof. All right, y'all, we are going to start on the Subaru project. We're basically gonna get it all four corners stripped. Ooh, this brake line. Oh yeah. Yeah, we probably should do that brake line. Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely do front brake lines. I didn't realize that one was so rusty. This one looks pretty decent. Let's do front brake lines, go ahead and do it. I pointed out last time, I think this has been leaking. But anyway, we're just gonna remove the calipers and the rotors today. I'll leave the lines on there for now. I'm just gonna get calipers and rotors off of front and rear. Super simple. We just got our brake line, banjo fitting dealy bob or whatever. And the, where the caliper frame bolts to the, whatever you call that, the backing plate. Knock these off. We'll get an idea how the e-brake looks as well. We're probably gonna have to get new e-brake shoes for the rear. And so yeah, it should take about 30 to 45 minutes depending on how much I dawdle. And we'll come back with everything off. Really pretty straightforward setup. If you have trouble getting the rotors off, this little area here is to screw in a metric bolt to press the rotor off of the front of the hub. In case you need to do that, a lot of times whacking it with a hammer a good couple times, but on these you want to get two, I can't remember what size metric bolts they are, but a lot easier than trying to pry everything off. And the front should come right off. They do have the same deal. That's what these threaded holes are for. Pretty ingenious because sometimes it's really hard to get rotors off. So we're just gonna get everything apart, and then tomorrow, the next day, I will start going back together. I need to pick up some new front brake lines. We've got all of our parts just like we've talked about. The last video for this series was a few weeks ago now. I haven't really done much to it. Let's look at the lines back here. Yeah, the rear lines look okay. Again, let's take a look at the issue here. No brake pad. Anyways, great time to replace the brake lines. And again, I'll just probably do the fronts. That's definitely not what you're looking for there. So this thing needs new front struts as well, but we'll cross that bridge later. All right, let's get these things off. All right, y'all, I found my set of bolts. Typically you want to use a just a hand ratchet for this, but just for this video's sake. Yeah, these are on the side. Woo, there we go. Wow, it's pretty cool. Here we go. This is ready to go. I'm just getting it further into the rust. Okay, yeah, at the end of the day, it's almost impossible to get. When these rotors are rusted, if you're doing it with the hammer, you're gonna accidentally hit these. Then your lug nuts aren't gonna go on. You're gonna have to chase the threads. So do yourself a favor and take these rotors off. Okay, look at the back side of that thing. So time to obviously check things out here. Right at that. How that hub bearing is actually, I think it's an integral bearing, I think, and it's pressed into the dealie. All right, guys, got the passenger front done. I was actually just gonna take the caliper all the way off. I'm gonna leave that on for now because the brake fluid was dripping, and I don't want to completely drain the system. I know that, I think that back one, that line's gonna be drained out. So I'm trying to limit what I have to do as far as bleeding the brakes. And what I'll do, of course, I get everything back together, everything installed, I'll crack the bleeders, and then I'll fill the reservoir and hope that I'm able to gravity bleed each side. Pretty sure I'm gonna have to bleed the master cylinder because it does look like it's empty, but it may not be completely empty. Yeah, it kind of does. I'll have to look at it further. I'm not really at that point. And there's a couple of tricks to bleed these on the vehicle. You just basically have somebody pump up and you crack the lines. At the end of the day, if you need to, you just got to remove it, put it on the bench, and do the bench bleed routine just to get all the air bubbles out, because I'm sure he pressed that pedal with no fluid, and so we've got tons of air in the system. So, all right, guys, I'm not going to film much more. I'll probably film the back once I get one of those sides apart. And finally getting on this Subaru, we're gonna get the brakes on it. Dad's gonna get me the wheels and tires back, and this thing's gonna shove off, and we're gonna be on to the next project. All right, y'all, got all the calipers and rotors off. Here's our carnage of operating a rear caliper without a brake pad. On the outboard side, it definitely just kind of grinded away. Obviously our rotor's toast. E-brake surprisingly has a lot of life left, but they are tapered, especially up on this edge. I'll show you over here. So we're just gonna go ahead and replace them. They have some life left in them, but this side's a little bit tapered, teeny bit thicker down there, and of course, as it's rotating, this is getting the bulk, of force. Or I think. Anyway, but we're in here, easy to replace. And I think we're good to go. Just need to make sure that nothing else is leaking. Of course, there's really nothing else. I think this is the rust stuff that I sprayed, but it's weird that it's way back there. Anyways, done for the night. Next job is to clean everything up. Obviously, replace the rear shoes. Get the calipers off. I gotta get front brake lines And then basically just get rid of the calipers. I need to clamp my lines. I was assuming the brake system was empty, but it makes sense that obviously not all corners are empty, only one is. Wherever the main leak was, which I'm sure on that other side, but that's it, guys. We're gonna turn in for the night and eventually get this old Subaru, and this is the one we did the heads on. Excuse me, the head gaskets. Timing set, everything's looking really good. There is a leak here because this line, I need to get an OEM upper. This is a aftermarket hose. I had to trim it, and this was actually just loose, so I tightened it. But you can see there was a slow leak. Coolant had time to leak out, and then all the water evaporated, and you're left with your green little glycol crystals. So we will continue on with this project. Get her done. All right, y'all, we have the driver's side front all buttoned up except for the brake line. Looking to get new units like we talked about last time. So we're just ready to basically hook that up and then of course bleed everything. Here's my workflow basically. I matched up the cores, I boxed up those, ready to return. First thing I'm gonna do, I've already, last night, I don't know if I filmed, I can't remember. Basically just wire wheeled the front hubs. I'm gonna brake clean the surface of the rotor, put that on the hub. I usually use a bolt in the bottom just to keep it somewhat straight. Gonna lubricate the brackets, install them. Lubricate these. They come factory lubricated, but not a lot of good movement in there, so I'm going to use some of this good stuff just to get everything nice and lubricated. Install the bracket, install the pads, and then finally install the caliper. I like to put a little layer of the same lubricant around there, basically the part that touches the pad. Basically the goal is to eliminate noises in between this and the pad. So if you have a little buffer, it's always worked out for me. There's probably better ways to go about it, but I don't recommend putting pads dry because there's metal to metal. You want to create a little bit of insulation, so put a little bit of this same stuff in between. Helps with comeback noises and stuff. Typically, it's obviously not a science, but our pads, we got our new wear indicator. I always like to install that on the, if you think about the rotor is going to meet the bottom of the pad first, then the back of it. This is backwards right now, but let's just do this. So the rotor's moving this way. So this surface is going to meet up with this side first. So I would like to put the wear indicator on this side, sort of the trailing edge. I don't know if it makes a big difference, but it seems to work out. You're going to get, you know, I don't know the science of it all is, but I've always put it on the trailing edge. Anyway, you know, there's an argument where maybe this side's going to wear a little bit faster because it's, you know, taking that forward brunt. Anyway. We're just gonna get her done. Definitely the ins and outs of doing brakes. Got my brake clean and my air ready to go. All right, of course now I just dust a bunch of dust in my area a little bit. All right, guys. We're gonna get this front done. This other side. Besides the brake lines, and then we'll do the back tomorrow. Over now. All right, got the passenger side done. I've determined that the front brake line is actually not bad at all. It was just the dirt that was caking off of them. So no need for front lines. I will replace the rear shoes because he was using those to stop mainly toward the end, and they're probably soaked with brake fluid as well. So just gotta get those. And then I will be able to get the rears buttoned up and hopefully by tomorrow get the wheels on it, get this thing rolling out of here.